Hello, hello. What's happening? Here we go. There we are. Hi there. This is Marla Past and the beautiful Katie Porter, who I'm
Hi.
so incredibly happy is here with me today. So, the two of us have had quite the history of bulimia, which is what we're going to speak about today. And you can recover. What we want to speak about is the road to recover. Everybody's a little different, but the disease or the disorder is the disorder. And it can come back and sit on your lap anytime it wants to. It's that powerful and that strong. I myself have had a few relapses in my life. It's been 15 years since I've been pretty much bulimic free, but like out of the clear blue sky, it doesn't have to be something upsetting. It could be something that made me incredibly happy. um, I'll find myself overeating. And as a bulimic, we don't overeat and keep food in. It's just not a sensation that we enjoy, which is such a bizarre thing about bulimia. We cannot stand the feeling of fullness. And if you want to take it, Katie, that's, I feel like you want to say something about that. Do you want to mention something about that?
Sure, Marla. I just want to thank you so much for having me here today. And you've been so supportive of me and my process living with this illness or disorder. There's so many names for it. And thank you for everything that you've done in my journey and just always checking in on me. And it means the world. So, yeah, I think bulimia can be just this sneaky, um, dark thing that resurfaces at different times in your life. In my experience, I could go for years and be totally bulimia free and not binging, purging, and then out of nowhere, something will trigger it. I'll eat something that I know is definitely not healthy or it's going to lead to weight gain, and immediately I just want it out. I'm like, oh no, that's going to cause me to gain weight, and then it will start with one thing or one purge, and then after that, it just picks up, and before I know, it's flared up again.
Yeah, and so I want to thank you for being so candid about it. And it's really true. So, what this podcast is a combination of things. One, it's letting you know that you're not by yourself because it is one of the most lonely illnesses or disorders. I don't even like to say illness because that stresses me out. Um, Disorders out there. You are literally alone. It's you, your food, and then you and your toilet. It's multifaceted. You're addicted to the food, you're addicted to throwing up, you're addicted to the food again, you're addicted to throwing up, and then you're addicted to feeling so exhausted that you don't have to think about what it was that was really bothering you because you were just preoccupied with this rage of eating and throwing up. And so your day is done and you're good. And then you do it again and again and again. But what this podcast is about is letting you know
We
we
know.
know and we understand. We know it because we've been there. We're not a therapist that's telling you from a book that we've studied. No disrespect for therapists. There are incredible therapists that I work with
Absolutely.
as clients, um, that really do get it. But for the most part, my experience has been they're looking at me judgy because they really don't get it or understand it. Um, or they're studying in a book and it's textbook, which it is not. It's very individual.
It's very individual. I have to definitely watch triggers, holidays, those types of events where there's just endless amounts of cookies and carbs and pastas and all of these foods that can be very triggering. And typically, birthdays, holidays, this types of thing can really set things back in motion. So I have to be very conscious that during those times, I'm watching my food and making sure that I'm not overeating or acting out on it. It doesn't have to be a negative emotion. It's not that I'm always sad or something is going off in my life. Like, it could be a happy time when we're just having birthday cake or celebrating someone's milestone, and I've had a couple macaroons, or I've had some ice cream that turned into more cake, that turned into um, just a free for all night, and then feeling like, oh my gosh, like,
Hmm.
that's going to that's going to catch up to me. And it's just this paralyzing fear. It's a fear of, and I think for me, like my bulimia also coincides with the dysmorphia, because the way that I see my body is not the way that a person who doesn't struggle with these issues. They might say, Katie, you're not overweight. You know, you look normal. You know, you don't have these severe, you're not morbidly obese. Like, just you just look normal. To them, that might be their normal, but to me, when I look in the mirror, if I see just a little bit off here, I can't just think like, oh, it's no big deal, or it's just a pound or two. I hyper focus, and it's all I can see is that 1 pound, or that one little, misshape in my body. And to me, it looks like I've gained 40 pounds. And I look in the mirror and I just see like ugly and overweight. And it releases this obsessive and compulsive nature of this disease. That's just, we think about the food, we obsess about the food, then we eat the food, we compulsively act on that obsession. And then after we obsess, we feel terrible once we've eaten it and thought of, the thinking about the food, the obsessing about the food, and then the compulsive behavior of eating the food, and then eating too much of the food that we've been dreaming I've been dreaming about.
And I'm going to add one more thing because
Mm-hmm.
it's so multifaceted. Because from my experience, it's not only about obsessing about the food. What often triggers it is self-loathing and obsess wanting to feel like I wanted to jump out of my skin. I could not stand to live in this skin.
Mm-hmm.
And my experience too is so interesting because the body dysmorphia, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's so real.
It's so
And
real.
it doesn't have to be for me. I've been 103 pounds and I've been 203 pounds. After my second daughter was born,
Yeah.
I wasn't throwing up. I was pregnant and a baby. And so that was not happening. But I gained so much weight. And I honestly didn't realize how fat I was either. So it kind of took another toll.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I sobered up and I realized it, well, guess who revisited me? Of course, because
Yeah.
bulimia, I want to just take a step back for a moment because I am a nutritionist and I do know
Yeah.
physiology quite well and anatomy. And it's not only a mental illness, it's a physiological dilemma because as you're throwing up, I mean, I was bulimic from the time I was 18 on and off till I was in my 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So that was most of my life. So from the time I reached adulthood, you become so malnourished that the body is screaming for nourishment, and it does that with cravings. And so it's a vicious cycle because let's think about this. You're malnourished,
Mm-hmm.
you're craving food,
So tired.
anything that you see becomes obsessive because you're so hungry and you want it so bad. And then you're saying no because you don't want to go into the whole binge thing.
Mm-hmm.
You weaken, okay, and then you binge. So then you become more malnourished, and so the cycle just progressive, and so it's such a devastating and horrifying process. However, there are solutions. So we spoke about that we understand what it is to be bulimic because we are not actively but have been. So my friends, we know the jig is up.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have friends who you can contact, and we'll leave information for you at the end of this podcast at any time. Just if you want to say, Katie or Marla, I had a bad day, or I'm thinking about having a day, or I'm thinking about having a meal, or whatever. There will never be judgment. And I always say,
Yeah.
judgment is the most fattening thing you can ever do.
Yeah.
The worst. If I thought somebody was going to judge me, and to this day, I'm not around people that judge me, but specifically with this particular disorder, you have to know that you can really trust somebody and that they're not going to judge you. But we are also going to provide you with some strategic methods because you know what? You can actually get well. I don't really think about food much anymore. I think about it as sustenance. I can be in a room with a buffet of cakes and have been many, many times. If I want a cookie, I'll have a cookie, one cookie. If I don't want a cookie, because I'm not feeling, I have to check in with myself. Can you have the cookie? If I can and just be okay with it and not obsess about it, I'll have it. If I cannot, then I don't.
Mhm.
So, would you like to add something to this?
Um, I think that's, I think that's a really good way to sum it up. It's always there. Um, Sometimes it goes dormant, and then sometimes it's right there. It could be just that simple, cookie that sets it off, or I just feel like it's something that's really difficult to talk about, and I think that we always say like we're only as sick as our secrets, and I think that the secretive nature and you know, a lot of times it's when I don't have control. I feel like I'm out of control of my life, or things are spiraling downward in one area. And then I feel like that's something that I do have control over, is that no one can take that from me, is, that secret that I have, or that control I have over my food. So I think it's even deeper than just what we see in the mirror or the dysmorphia. It goes deeper to the feelings of control and not having that control. So just having other people that understand the deep layers and layers that come with this illness. I think it's a great asset to have someone like you, Marla, that has studied this field and knows the nutritional part of it, and just being able to write a book about this topic that's so like I'm touching on the secretive nature of it, because it's so disgusting for a person who doesn't understand that you would vomit your food or that you would do something like that. They don't understand. And so being able to not just sympathize, which I think you were touching on with book knowledge, someone that has book knowledge, they can sympathize for you. They can feel bad or that you're going through something like this, but they can't necessarily empathize because they haven't walked in your shoes. They don't understand how a person could do something that's so disgusting to other
Yeah, they
people.
don't
They don't
understand.
understand.
They don't understand how when you don't answer your phone for 5 days, it's because you're in your
In
disease,
your
or
disease.
and then they get mad at you for not answering your phone or not keeping in contact, or when you cancel, a dinner date because you don't want to be exposed
Yeah.
to the food, or you don't want to go out with a man because you know he's going to want to have intimacy with you, and you just feel so disgusting in your body because of what's been going on.
Absolutely.
Who would understand that? And here's the thing about bulimics: we are usually within 10 to 15 pounds or in our right weight. It's either 10 to 50 pounds over or 10
Yeah.
to 15 pounds under. We're usually on, I don't want to sound egotistical, but we usually are attractive. Okay. It's just a thing because attractive women, and there are men. Now there are so many men coming out in this arena that are telling me, Marla, I've been bulimic. My first boyfriend when I was 18 taught me bulimia.
Yeah.
It's in my book. I have a book. It's called Life After Eating. I'm going to make it an ebook, and it'll be
Phenomenal book.
it'll be available on my stand store, in an ebook. And there's going to be also an ebook that we're going to put together on strategic knowledge on how to avoid the triggers. Okay, to know thyself. But anyway, my first boyfriend taught me bulimia, so there are men as well. But really, to your point, people don't understand the behavior because it's not out there that much. It's more now. You can go on YouTube, which, by the way, is going to start to ban things about bulimia and eating disorders, because it's some kind of thing that's been going on where the younger population is learning how to do it from these
From these
videos.
videos.
So I get it, but also I hope they don't ban things that are helpful. So we do want to make an ebook very soon on strategic methods and tips, for lack of a better word, on how to avoid the triggers and to know thyself. I think the most important thing, let's talk about recovery now.
Yeah.
So you get it. We know, we've been there, we understand. Every moment of every day, it sits on your shoulder. You could say good morning, go live your life. Good. Oh, okay. Hello, friend. Okay, we're
Mm-hmm.
good.
I'm good.
I'm not going to address you right now if you're screaming in my ear, but perhaps later. But right now, we're good. But I see you.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. Don't think
Yeah.
that it's not there. It's always there.
There.
Okay, but you don't have to run from it. You can shake its hand and say, later, buddy. Okay, not now. And then hopefully later becomes later and later and later until later is really later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the way I see it. But let's talk about recovery.
Yeah.
So recovery is a rocky road. It can be. You can go months without throwing up. You know, you may, and then all of a sudden the weight may start to come in. If you don't follow a strategic food plan, this has been my problem. This is why I've been up and down the scale. I'd stop throwing up, and I'd be working with people at the time that would say, love yourself when you're heavy, love yourself, but you don't understand. I can get heavy if I eat a tuna fish sandwich on white bread. You know, people don't get that. Like a lot of us have been heavy as children or have maybe lower thyroid, a little body dysmorphia. We tend to gain weight easy. We are carb resistant.
Mm-hmm.
That's a physiological fact. Most bulimics don't do well with a lot of carbs. Most people don't do well with carbs. I treat people of all walks of life for disordered eating or just overweight or binge eating, but most the through line is refined carbohydrates. It also triggers something in the brain and the hypothalamus, which regulates the apostat, that once you start eating it, you can't stop. I know I'm deviating because I do that, but recovery is about having a food plan. What I do with my patients, and I hope that you reach out for me because really this is a labor of love for me. If I can do it, you can do it. You find a food plan, you work with a nutritionist or a coach that can work with you in adaptability. Adaptability is the highest form of intelligence. So, what you ate yesterday may not be the best thing for today. And if you need to change it to avoid a binge, you do, but it has to be strategic, it has to be conscious. There has to be a food plan written out every day that you will follow until, like me, I don't need to write it out anymore. Can you imagine? But I do need to make sure that there's food in my refrigerator
Mm-hmm.
that's healthy. I'm not allowed to be alone with chips because they will have their way with me. It's just one of my trigger foods. This I know. Okay, when my daughters come to visit, they want their chips, hide them. And you know what? It better be a good place because I will find
Find
them.
it.
Um, Make sure you're taking a good amount of supplements. And that is something that I can discuss with you in depth. You must supplement. You are nutritionally deficient from throwing up. You are electrolyte deficient. You are mineral deficient. You are going to be craving things. We need to understand what those cravings are and what they mean because they mean something. And we need to give you things to quench them. Something you would like to add, my darling?
I think, like Marla was touching on, making that first call for me is the biggest part for me is exposing what's going on. You were my first call, Marla, you were my first call because I knew you understood and I knew you would not respond with judgment or with anything other than love and understanding. And that meant the world to me, to know that you were my call. I really, truly love you with all my heart. And it, you know, that first step of just exposing what's going on is probably the hardest part. And you are deficient and you are, I would drink water just because I knew it would make the purge
Oh,
easier.
by all means.
And
Alcohol is
so,
also a good
oh,
one.
alcohol. And then
All of it.
being
We're not recommending
dehydrated,
it. We're just telling
no,
you.
being dehydrated, being malnourished, being weak, being all of those things, and still not wanting to reach out for help, because once you put it out there, then it's like, okay, it's exposed. Like people know, someone knows. And I think, that's that big first piece. So understanding um, that once that's exposed, I can't, like, I'll have a grocery list that's that I know is just for the purge, and I'll have a grocery list of the healthy foods, and knowing that once I expose that secret, that food drug, so to speak, that I'm hiding, like all of that has to be exposed. And so having those healthy foods at home, having the protein there at night when those cravings come, um, knowing when knowing that I have to eat throughout the day, at least small meals, so that I don't get to that extreme
Yeah.
hunger point. Just having those nutritional tips, you've been so helpful with me with that, because everything has to change. I have to completely change my thinking and completely change that lifestyle habit of, having those foods that I want so badly, but I know are going to be so triggering.
This is very profound what she's saying and so accurate, and leads me to another discussion on meditation and changing your mind. So I'm a big student of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I recommend his work all the time. He talks about the science of the brain. I'm only interested in science. That's my love. And changing the habit of being yourself is one of his books, and what I work on. It's like what Katie just said. You literally have to change your mind. And that is not easy, because the food and the throwing up are symptomatic of something else that's going on. Everything starts in the brain. Once you could start to observe your behaviors and you really know them, you could start to see, pay it forward. You could start to see where it's going to go. And so little changes are big changes. They're big, they mean a lot. I'm going to record and have recorded a 21-day hypnosis for self
Mm.
love, because at the end of the day, and even at the beginning of the day, especially at the beginning of the day, it's all about love
Yeah.
and forgiveness, and forgiveness of yourself.
Not
You
perfect.
just forgive. You must forgive and love yourself.
Yeah.
You have to fall in love with the child that you were when your essence was alive,
Yeah.
and kiss it and hug it and embrace it. And then go along your life and see where the tree started to grow crooked.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you can get to the point where you see the tree grow crooked, you can start to see where the eating issues started to come,
Yeah.
because that was the pain. So it's all about self love.
Yeah.
It's all about meditating. Meditating means to become familiar with yourself.
Yourself.
It's not sitting there woo woo. It's not that. That's not what we're speaking about.
Mm.
I'm speaking about taking a few minutes every day to sit quietly and introduce yourself to yourself.
Yeah.
Reacquaint yourself. You can ask questions like, why have I been so cruel to
To
you?
myself. Mm.
Why would I want to eat something?
Yeah.
And then stick my fingers down my throat and, like a dragon
Yeah.
spitting up fire,
Absolutely.
throw it up and keep my head in the toilet. There were times that I threw up 10 times in a day.
Yeah.
My entire day was consumed with it, because once it starts, and it's like, why would I want to do that to me? I wouldn't do that to my child.
No.
I wouldn't do that to Katie. I wouldn't do that to someone that I love.
Mm.
But why would I do that to me? So, Katie, if you want to add anything to that, I I want to end on the
Mm.
note of why.
Right. It comes down to self love. It really does. And when you can start to heal and love yourself, even if you are a few pounds,
Over or
overweight or
under
underweight,
or
and and that's really the healing that comes from within. So thank you so much again, Marla, for
oh,
everything you've done for me to support me in this process. And I love you so much.
I'm the
And I
lucky one.
hope we had something that can help you today to just recognize that there's life on the other side, and
There
it doesn't
is.
have to define you. It's just something that we deal with, and we do it together. Yeah.
So the name of my book is called, ironically, Life After Eating. Eat your food, go live your life. Okay, again, that's going to be on my stand store. You'll see all the connections here. And please reach out to me. I'm available for coaching one on one. I'm only honored to be able to share my experience with you and have you share your experience with me, which would be your best process for healing, is to share your experience instead of hiding it. With all our love and
Yes.
goodwill, we emanate and send you everything from our hearts to yours. And thank you so much. If this helps one person, we did a good
We did a
job.
good job.
Okay, I'm going to sign off now. Have a great
Have a great day.
everything.